Hi everyone, this is Marcus from CarTurf. How much does it cost to rent a car in Europe? Well, the first thing is to consider all of your preferences, the different country, the type of car, the time of year, and the company itself, what they offer as far as insurance packages. But in general, I want to give you some figures to go off of if you decide you want to rent a car in Europe. So if you're looking at countries individually, here are some figures to keep in mind. United Kingdom on average is $45 a day. France can be $50 a day. Germany $55, Italy $60, Spain $65. So those numbers can depend on the country, and that's just a result of how the business is done, what the costs are, and things like that. So I've seen something as low as $20 a day in Spain, for example. I remember last year in Mallorca, that's what I paid. And this time we recently went to Greece. So that's on the low end. And those were something like a Toyota Corolla hybrid even. But if you're going to get an SUV and different vehicles, obviously that can double or triple. So you want to keep that in mind when you are planning to rent a car in Europe. Some additional costs that you want to keep in mind when renting a car in Europe. Obviously, you're paying for your own fuel. In Europe, the fuel prices are much higher than the US, for example. Additional insurance. When you go with the lowest deal that you can find on a rental car, you'll get to the counter, they're going to offer you additional insurance and then warn you that if you do not use their insurance, they will charge you extra if you get in a fender bender or even worse. What I typically do is I recommend getting a third-party insurance. If you have a credit card that already offers that, you can put that on your credit card and have a plan B just in case. Have some kind of additional insurance. That way, when you get to the counter, you can pick up your car and say, I have third-party insurance, I'm not worried, and then they typically back off on their offers. Obviously, another cost is parking throughout Europe. This depends on the city, the size of the city, and the country. Typically, you're going to need to plan for paying for parking. Large cities in Italy, whether it's Paris, Berlin, Munich, major cities in Europe will have sizable hourly rates that you'll need to plan for. And here are some tips for getting cost-effective car rentals. Obviously, book in advance because the closer you get to the date, you're going to have limited options. Compare prices across different websites to get the best. You want to look into what they are offering, not just the price that you see on the page, but also does it include additional insurance or not? Can you pick up your car in one location and drop it off in another? So you'll need to pay attention to the details to compare apples to apples and not one company to another and they're offering completely different things. One option is to go with local companies versus larger companies, but keep in mind that they may have different policies. So you'll need to read through some of the fine print to understand what's included. And also, if you are a member of AAA or some other membership, then you can possibly get discounts. So those are 4 ways that you can save on car rentals. One way that you can save on car rentals is to pick up and drop off in the same location. I do this on occasion when I need an additional car in another place. I don't have access to my car or I'm traveling. I will pick up and drop off at a major airport. That's typically cheaper than going to the city center of wherever you are visiting. One time I remember here in Cologne, I went to the airport to pick up and drop off a vehicle there because it was cheaper than going downtown and getting a vehicle for about 10 days when I needed it, when some family members were visiting. So even local options are cheaper when picking up and dropping off at one location. If you intend to travel through Europe and you're picking up in one country and dropping off in another, that typically will increase the prices by far because they will then need to pay somebody to transport that car back. So just keep in mind that you'll need to look at all of the options there with picking up and dropping off in different locations is not really a viable option. And unfortunately, long-term car rentals don't yield you much of a discount. I don't know why that is. If you were to rent a car for 2 weeks versus 4 or 6 or 8 weeks, it seems to be that the daily rate is going to be about the same. So when you're looking at all of the options and you're planning a trip to Europe, if you are renting a car for more than several weeks, or if you're going through multiple European countries, then you may want to look at CarTurf as an alternative, because you can buy and register a car and drive it wherever you wish, and then at the end we can help you sell that car, versus renting a car at higher fees, and then at the end of the trip you have to return the car to avoid large fees, or you have to somehow rearrange your whole trip just to accommodate the car rental. Or you may have to plan on renting a car in each city or each location that you're in to avoid all of those fees associated with dropping off the car in a different location. So if you are looking for an option to have access to a vehicle in Europe and travel around at your pace, have the flexibility and the comfort of having your own vehicle, but not necessarily paying the high rental car fees, then look at something like CarTurf. Visit mycarturf.com, where you can buy a car, register it through CarTurf, and use it throughout Europe. And then at the end of your trip, we can help you sell it. That way you avoid all of the high costs of renting a car and then binding agreements that you have to return the car back to where you're not going to be on your trip. That way you avoid car rental fees and the limitations of returning the car where actually you're not going that same direction. You're going to fly out of a different country. So reach out to us if you have any questions. I hope this video was helpful to you. See you on the road.